Good afternoon. I call to order the meeting of the Placer County Board of Supervisors, Monday, April 23rd, 2012, scheduled for 2 p.m., but it is actually 2:07. We will begin with our flag salute, led by Supervisor Euler. Flags are over there. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Supervisor Euler. We will now have the statement of meeting procedures read by our clerk, Ann Holman.
Welcome to the Placer County Board of Supervisors meeting of Monday, April 23rd, 2012. Agendas are available on the table in the back of this meeting room. If you are here to speak on an issue not appearing on the agenda, you may do so during the public comment period. There's a 3-minute time limit per speaker. The board is not permitted to take action on items addressed under public comment. When you speak, clearly state your name and address for the record. All items on the agenda will be open for the public to address before final action is taken. There's a 3-minute time limit per speaker, which will be monitored by a timer on the podium. If there is a person speaking on behalf of a group with no other testimony from another member of the group, please identify yourself as such, and your time may be extended at the pleasure of the board. Keep in mind that the chairman has discretion of limiting the total discussion time on any item. If you are hearing impaired, we have listening devices available. It is requested that all pagers and cell phones be either turned off or put in the silent mode. Thank you for your participation and cooperation.
Thank you. We will now move to public comment. This is the time at which persons may address the board on items not on this agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes per person, since the time allocated is 15 minutes. If comments cannot be heard in the allocated time, we will reopen public comment at the end of the meeting. So at this point, if there is anyone who would like to come forward and make public comments on anything not on the agenda, please do so.
Is this on?
It is now.
Okay. My name is Allison Schwedner. I'm the director of the Community Collaborative of Tahoe Truckee, and we are comprised of about 40 health, education, and social service agencies that work together to support kids and families and seniors in the Tahoe Truckee area. And I'm here today just to express my gratitude to Placer County. We tend to feel a little bit isolated up here. And we really appreciate the leadership of the HHS senior management staff. So Dr. Burton, Richard Connect, Maureen Bauman, Cheryl Davis, definitely Glenn Harrelson, our local leader, and Janice Luer with First 5 Placer County. We've enjoyed years of really incredible partnerships to ensure that kids and families are thriving and healthy in the Tahoe area, and we look forward to continuing this relationship. So just wanted to express my gratitude. So, thank you.
Thank you, Allison, and just please know that you are also a pleasure to work with. It's great to work with a community group that's so involved. Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Since it is not yet 2:30 and not time for our timed item, we will move to our first department item, which is Community Development Resource Agency, the Placer County Biomass Program and Cabin Creek Biomass Facility Project. Multiple presenters, beginning with Michael Johnson.
Thank you. Michael Johnson with the Community Development Resource Agency. This afternoon, staff has a brief presentation for you to give you an update on the status of the biomass program. There will be 2 presenters. Brett Story will talk about the status of the overall biomass program, and Jerry Haas will speak to the status of the environmental document, and we'll start with Brett Story.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Brett.
Thanks. Chairwoman Montgomery and the board, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today. We'll go to the next slide. I'll give you a little bit about what's going on with the program, and then Jerry will follow up with the project itself. As you know, you as a Board of Supervisors approved the biomass program in 2007. Oh, there it is. Thank you. And there was a strategic plan along with that approved that year. We are moving forward. Our largest effort is the Department of Energy grant, which is comprised of technical, environmental, and economic studies. We have several reports that have been completed, and they are published on the website, and we actually send them out to multiple groups. We have the Air and Water Air and Water Emissions and Carbon Credits Emissions Offset Study, which is a document that took a look at all of the requirements for the Air Pollution Control District and Lahontan Water District and those sorts of things, and we can meet all those guidelines. We have the logistics study of the region up here in Lake Tahoe, which was looked at how all the roads system work and impact on the community. And by putting up this facility, there should be very little impact as a whole, but that'll be analyzed in the EIR. We had the woody biomass fuel source analysis, which took a look at sustainable removal of biomass in the Tahoe region for 30 miles around the facility. And we have plenty of material, as many of you know, and it could be lit off, and hopefully we're going to capture that and not have it burn. We have a public health risk associated with a biomass facility, which looked at the former site at Kings Beach and the new site at Cabin Creek. And the information from the third party is that there is no significant health risk on any of the technology we might use. We have 3 reports that are due out this summer. One is on the project economics. There'll actually be 4 sites that were looked at there, obviously including Cabin Creek, Kings Beach, but we looked at a couple of other sites in the beginning, and we'll have all that information. The new source review, which is the Air Pollution Control District, how they will review this site and this project. We had them pre-look at it to make sure that we were going to be able to meet all of their requirements, and luckily we do, and that's in management approval right now. We also have the technical requirements for any of the equipment that might go on in the facility. That report is coming out, and what that will tell you is that only people who can meet or exceed the guidelines will be able to bid on the project. We will not accept anything until they meet those requirements on paper, and then we'll evaluate them when they come in. Next is the U.S. Forest Service Woody Bug Grant, and I say next because it's really related to the Department of Energy project. It was specifically won because of our advancement in this area, and it's essentially to look at the new design of the Cabin Creek facility. Wood Rogers is the design firm that started, and actually tomorrow morning on consent there's another item to extend their contract to do all of the intermediate design to get us ready for Planning Commission. We have a preliminary site layout, which Jerry will detail, but we also have a conceptual 3D building design that the technical and the environmental team have reviewed and made improvements to, and here we are. I won't talk a great deal about it, just to let you know, though, we were given this site by this facilities department as something that wasn't in their future plans, nor Tahoe Truckee Sierra Disposal, who's on site. It's about a 2-acre site. Again, Jerry would go into more details, but we were able to fit the size of the facility we were looking for, which is a 2-megawatt facility, along with 6 months of storage. And as you see, if you've been up to Cabin Creek, this is looking from about where the water tower is, if you've ever hiked up to the water tower. It has some national forest next to it, and it's not devoid of trees. It's something I have to get them to draw back put in, but that green line is actually U.S. Forest Service Tahoe National Forest, and we have already met with them to discuss how that will be worked next to us. But what you see there is a building that would house the equipment. There would be the dark area would be all paved, and that's where the material would be stored, the 6 months worth of material. The trucks would come in. As you see that truck coming, it would dump its load and go out the back. So there wouldn't be any unusual turn lanes. There wouldn't be any problems with any movement of that trucks. And in fact, trucks already move through that area. So that's one of the things we looked at, is to have as least impact as we possibly could. Yes, sir.
I don't see any smokestacks.
Well, there won't technically be any smoke that will come out. What you do see, if you look closely, there are 6 places where one is an intake. It's got to take fresh air in for the gasification system. One is the after everything has been cleaned up, the emissions that will come out. And the third one is actually a flare in case the engines are not running for whatever reason while the syngas was being made. You need to flare that, but it would be a small flare and probably would be very uncommon to see that. And you see 2 sets because our design will hold 2 1-megawatt systems, so that we'll always be able to be up and running if we have to take it down for maintenance, or if we don't have enough fuel, we could still run half the time on a more limited supply. And this drawing, by the way, will get better and better. We forced them into a first drawing, and we forced them into a second drawing, just so we'd have something to show you in the public today. Next, I wanted to introduce something called a health impact assessment process, and the nice lady who spoke is a part of our community stakeholder group, and Doc Burton in the back showed as well today, and he's a part of the process. And really, we decided to do this. We were fortunate and won a grant. I'll talk a little bit about that. But what we look at is a nice complement to our EIR process, which Jerry will talk about today. This grant was awarded by the Pew Charitable Trusts and Wood Johnson Foundation. If you've ever watched KVIE, you know who they are. We're not quite Masterpiece Theater, but we're trying. Yeah, well, we know. I don't speak with a British accent, but I was homeless. No, I'm just kidding. I think it was about a $120,000 grant. Placer County only received a small portion of that, and that was really for Doc Burton's crew to work with the other people who were on board. The team consists of the Sequoia Foundation, the California Department of Public Health, Habitat Health Consulting. They're the main players and the main people who will be involved in all of the community stakeholder group. Doc Burton and his staff, as well as planning staff, is involved, but really from a technical correspondence and review and advisory role, it's really the rest of the team that's working directly. In fact, they won't even let me vote, which is fine. I shouldn't. And then what is it? Well, an HIA is a process. It's relatively new in the States, worked throughout Canada quite well on a lot of different types of things. It's used to identify how a project might influence the health of not only the people who work there, but the people in the community that may be affected by it. It looks at all human populations, and in our case, what they've decided to do is not only the long-term operations, but actually the construction cycle as well, is because there are different impacts, potentially health impacts to people. So they're looking at both of those. It looks at changes in physical, community, social, and economic structure that may affect health for both better and worse. So what you will see eventually is a report that will come to the Planning Commission as well as the board with a bunch of recommendations that will also go out to community groups, and we have a pretty wide variety of interested stakeholder groups that would also get a copy of that. It is a community stakeholder-driven process. There has already been a meeting held in March. There will be at least one other meeting probably in early July, as well as quite a bit of email traffic. People want to talk about, they want to be involved in this, and our team has said we want as much involvement as we possibly can have to be assistant to the project. So that's all going on. All of the information from the draft EIR and any other pertinent technical or economic or anything else we have is handed to the group, and they are to use it as they see fit, trying to understand those health impacts. I attended the first meeting, and just on a personal note, this is one of those cases where there is no wrong suggestion or wrong idea. You put it on the wall, you think about it, you work through it, so you can determine whether it is a positive or a negative effect, or even whether it's relevant. And I think that's the beauty of this type of process, is it lets all voices be heard, and then people work through them to decide what is meaningful and what is not. Again, the final recommendations would come to you, and what we hope is that the results in those final recommendations are things that can improve the project. In fact, I heard a couple in the very first meeting that have already shaped a change to the process, and the Planning Commission would see that, and we would actually point that out. We would give credit to that community team that thought of that. Just a little bit about the projects that will be coming before you. Quite a few up here. Last year was a down year when Loyalton closed and Carson City closed. No one would accept the biomass. We had a tough time. We got a lot of places to take it that were further away than we wanted to go. So we've got some things lined up this year that we look like are all solid. Contracts are in place. And each of these, the funding agencies, or the agencies I have listed, are participating with funding. The Air Pollution Control District through our Clean Air Grant Program, which I believe 3 of you are on and helped award. We will be utilizing those monies as well. And then your board-directed HR 2389 funds, as well as my time, are put into these projects. In the Lake Tahoe region, the Forest Service Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit, we have some projects of some piles that have been sitting here quite a long time in Kings Beach, Burton Creek, and Tahoe City. And we're going to be cleaning up all of those piles so that they don't have to burn them this year, because they're planned to be burned this winter. State parks, there is about 20 acres that they would like thinned and removed, coincidentally next to the piles the Forest Service has, so it's quite a lot of material that are sitting there, which is right next to one of our facilities where the sheriff's and court system work out of. So hopefully we're going to get all that area cleaned up this summer. The state parks, Burton Creek, is supposed to start in June, with the other projects following those. We have a project with the Tahoe Conservancy. They've got a number of North Shore urban lots that they would like us to help them remove the material so they don't have to burn it or dispose of it in other ways. The North Tahoe Fire Protection District, several projects we have, smaller projects, kind of throughout their whole area, all the way out even to Alpine Meadows area. We've got some projects to work with them. And then a larger one in the Forest Hill region, we are working with HR 2389 Title II RAC dollars. Chairwoman Montgomery is the chair of that committee, as well as the chair of your committee. They were kind enough to grant us $50,000, and we've come up with another $150,000 to $200,000 of other dollars to match, and then the Forest Service is throwing in some of their money, and we are going to clean up. Well, I don't know if we're going to clean it all up, but they recently thinned 1,500 acres in the SNAMP project. If you're aware of that, it's about 15 miles northeast of Forest Hill, and it's pretty critically important to projects that's going on there. So the fact that we can clean those piles up before they're burned helps them get on with their studies, and they've got like a 7-year program that they're doing. So just wanted to bring those forward to you, and that's all I have, unless you have any questions of me. Jerry will now go. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
We do have one.
It's my understanding that natural gas is now at a 10-year low. Is that going to have an effect on how we sell this, the energy from this?
It should not affect us in that same way that it might affect other. The $2 is an all-time low. Our material would be put through in the alternative energy strategies, which, because of AB 32, requires all, is this still on? I apologize. Requires all utility companies to reach a certain percentage of green energy. This fits into that bucket, so natural gas prices don't have anything to do with that per se. We've been able to bring the economics down to where this is normally 13 cents a kilowatt. We've got it down to around 9 cents a kilowatt. So our power partner is really excited in that we're going to be able to provide cheaper power than some other places might. But it would still be a requirement of theirs to reach so much. So our project should not be affected in that way.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Brett, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Don't suppose I have a whole lot of time here, so I'm going to move quickly.
Take as much time as is necessary.
Okay. Thank you for that. As Brett mentioned, this is an update on the progress of the Biomass Program pilot project. We have identified a project site, preferred project site. It's at the Eastern Regional Landfill Materials Recovery Facility. As Brett mentioned, it's a 10,800 square foot facility and an attached covered storage and an adjacent open air storage. Conditional use permit, there's possibly going to be a variance to overall height for this, but conditional use permit is really the only entitlement that's being considered at this time. This is the project site location. For anybody who's unfamiliar with it, it's just south of the town of Truckee here, off of Interstate 80 or Highway 89. This is an aerial view of the project site. The overall ERL site is about 280 acres. It's all zone forest. We've taken a look at this project site down here, about 2 acres in size. This is kind of a blow up of that area. You have the MRF facility here, the Tahoe Area Regional Transit facility here. This is sort of an administrative and maintenance building for the remainder of the site. This is a little caretaker's residence that would go away, but that's exactly where the building would be located. We're looking at an alternative site a little further up the road here that's undeveloped just for the purposes of analysis in the EIR. This is the project site. This is the primary structure here. Parking is in the front. The trucks would come in to the south off of Cabin Creek Road. They would drive up this way. They would deposit their loads, head on up around, and then come back down this way and leave the site that way. It's anticipated that they won't be entering the site really any further than that. The trucks that are coming in are primarily going to be loading and unloading material right here, actually only unloading material there. These are a couple of images of the site. The caretaker's residence is right here on the corner of Cabin Creek and we'll call it Bernie Street or something, I don't know. So it's a modular unit. There were three caretaker's residences on the site when we first began taking a look at the site. And what I mean by the site is the overall ERL site. On this project site, there is one, but it would be relocated. This is an image of the alternative site that we're looking at. A little too pretty to touch, but it's there for the purposes of analysis. And this is the MRF facility, just for kind of a gauge of reference. The location for the biomass facility would be just to the south and east of the MRF building there. We are in the midst of environmental review for this. We're preparing an environmental impact report. There was a public scoping meeting we held for this during the public review period. We held it in Squaw Valley at the PUD building up there. On January 11th, we had a lot of agency representation there. I don't believe there was anyone from the public who showed up there, but we did receive a couple of public correspondences following that and during the public scoping period. As with the Kings Beach proposal, this would be a joint document. It's an environmental impact report pursuant to CEQA. Because we have the Department of Energy grant here, there's a National Environmental Policy Act nexus, so we'll be preparing an EA. It's anticipated, just as before, that this EIR would satisfy the requirements for an environmental assessment for NEPA. At this point, we're in the midst of the preparation of the admin draft EIR. We actually anticipated it would be here by tomorrow, but it looks like it's going to be about 2 weeks from now. Just tends to happen. If we do get it within 2 weeks, we expect to see a public draft available for review by this summer. So it's moving along a lot quicker now. A lot of the analysis has been done to date. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about it.
I see none. Thank you, Jerry.
Very good. Thank you.
We do have a couple of folks who I won't characterize as partners, but people who have been working on this with us here. And I just would be happy to offer Allison, I know you helped with the health assessment. If there were any comments you wanted to make on that or anything you wanted to add to that discussion. Come on.
So again, Allison with the Community Collaborative. My only comment would be that I would really encourage the county to also work with Nevada County, because I think what's unique about this community project is even though it's in Placer County, it's so close to the Nevada County line in the town of Truckee. And quite frankly, when we were doing our outreach for the health impact assessment, we had a lot more interest from Truckee folks than people who live in the basin, which we were pretty surprised about. So that would really be my only comment.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We also have Joanne Rubik from the U.S., or actually Doc Burton, if you wanted to come forward first. Thank you.
Hello, Richard Burton, Health Officer in Placer County. I just wanted to provide the board the information. I've met with the Health Officer and the Environmental Health Director in Nevada County, and they're interested in continuing to work with us, and they're getting copies of the EIR when it comes out.
As is the town of Truckee.
As is the town of Truckee.
Great. Thank you so much. We also, and I don't mean to put anyone on the spot here, we do have Joanne Rubik from the Forest Service. If there was anything you wanted to add, Joanne, now would be a wonderful opportunity.
To all people. Joanne Rubik with the U.S. Forest Service in Truckee. The only thing I guess I would say, we're really pleased that Placer County is being so forward-thinking and planning for a plant like this. We think that it will be a huge plus to the larger eastern part of the Tahoe National Forest as well as to the basin. Brett mentioned that we've had problems with some of the other plants going offline. So our compliments. We look forward to working closely with the county because we think this is a good thing for the larger east side over here as well as for the greater Tahoe, Truckee, North Tahoe, Truckee community. Anyhow, thank you very much, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much. At this time, if there's anyone from the audience, public or otherwise, who would like to come forward and speak on this topic, just raise any questions or concerns. We'd be happy to hear that.